in that losing interest part, it can apply to other things. So say you are working this one job or this one position, and then you get a new one and you're going to be promoted. The space from the time you find out that you're about to go through a transition to when you go to that transition, a lot of times you lose interest in your current duties and your current job because you are focused on what's next. So you slow down and you're slowly starting to wrap your mind around this shift. You're disinterested in what's left in that role. And so, we in the West are really, really bad in this space because the West has two speeds, right? We've got fully alive and productive or dying and out of the way. And we don't leave much room for the transition period, for the space between living and leaving. And we don't know what to do with people who are in that space as well, because we are still going full throttle. We still have these things that we're focused on, these goals that we want to meet. We have all of these things going on, and we don't honor the people that are slowing down. So we push through, or we withdraw, or we pretend it's not happening, because when someone is in that space of slowing down, it's really kind of sad for the rest of us. And case in point, when you see a loved one who you haven't seen in a while, and maybe it's been a few years, and you finally see them and they have slowed down a little bit, they're a little bit more frail, the shock of that moment is sometimes really hard for people to reconcile with. The version of their loved one that they had in their head that's, strong and vital and active, to the person that they're seeing now and after it's been a while. And so I think we can be good stewards of those that are leaving by making space to honor the slowing down and not trying to force our fast pace. Hi girl, hi Deed _21. And not withdraw because we're scared of what's happening, right? So, what the between asks us is this. Welcome, Nicholas Hopper. That we apply more presence than productivity and more listening than fixing. So, for ourselves and for the people that are in this in-between space. The in-between space is such an odd space. And also know that in-between space is a blessing, because sometimes people are taken quickly or there's an accident. And if we are blessed when we come to the end of our life, we get a slowing down. Almost like, I don't know how to put that into words. But maybe have you guys seen this with your family members or in your own life, where you slow down in between the transitions, which I know in the West is a thing that a lot of people don't do. We fail to slow down. Like, one thing that I feel like I've always been good at is when going from one job to another or one position to another, I would take space, take a vacation. I would use the time that I didn't get to take, I would use it and have space in between roles so that I had time to slow down and get ready for what was next. Hey, Musica Incencia from Costa Rica. Thank you for joining. And so, y'all, I feel like you will feel so much more fulfillment in these roles and in our lives when we take the time to slow down in the in-between. All right. Like I said, between living and leaving. And that doesn't necessarily mean leaving this earth, but leaving singlehood, leaving motherhood, leaving studentship, right? Leaving a position, leaving a marriage, Amber says, when my dad died from cancer, it was so hard to witness the in between. I'm interested. Was it the reconciling that was hard? She says, I remember wondering if suddenly losing him would have been easier. Okay, that's a great perspective, and it's a good question. The thing that you get with the in between and the slowing down is the time to say all the things because you know what's coming, right? Do you feel as though there would have been things left unsaid? Okay, there you said it. You said what I was thinking. She says, and I know it wouldn't have been because we had time. Right, you had time to be present and to slow down yourself to be with him during his slowdown. You know, in a way, you were a doula to your dad because you were with him through all the way to the end, and you got to witness the whole thing, the whole in between, which I know it doesn't feel like it in the moment, but is such a blessing for both of you, for your father and for you. Um, so I have met in my role as a death doula a lot of people in the in-between space, right? Because most times when you're hiring a death doula, it means that you're knocking at death's door and you know that the time is near. And meeting people in the in-between, I feel like I've met them at their most alive. These people are reconciling their entire lives. They're poring over every interaction and every conversation, every lesson. And as the death doula, a lot of times I get imparted with so much wisdom and I get to see so much strength. There are so many things that I never thought about prior to this work that I get to see and think about all the time. Sometimes people are numbed by how fast they are sprinting through life. And they're living so hard that they never let themselves enter a in-between space, right? And then when they get to their in-between, there's a lot of regret, right? The things that we think are important now, at the very end, I have found have not been as important as we think. And that's the gift that I get for doing this work. The gift that I get is seeing how I can better live and be more present with the people that I love. I probably spent a good 4 to 5 years being a complete hermit and homebody. And I was just like, I love my house. And I still do love my home. I love my house. But I've made a point to go to the things and go see the people and laugh with laugh with people and get out and live. Because I know that if for whatever reason I find myself in my in-between space, I would not be satisfied with having spent the last year at home and not living. I'm not here to just be holed up inside four walls. So the question I want you all to sit with today is, where are you right now? Are you in full speed ahead living mode? Are you in the in-between? Are you somewhere else entirely, right? And is someone that you love in the in-between? And are you meeting them where they are? Or are you still just blowing past all of these opportunities to connect? I don't think that there's some conspiracy to stop us from connecting with one another, but I do believe that the current state and perception of death and how we approach it in the West is preventing us from having meaningful moments and meaningful connection with others, because, we'll say, I'm tired, or I just don't feel like it today, or I'll do it next week. And let me tell y'all a story. So when my sister died, we were fine. We were great. But maybe like 6 months before she died was the last time that I saw her, 6 or 7 months. And we had a disagreement. It wasn't even an argument. It was just a disagreement, but we both had very strong feelings about what had happened. And my last week in the United States, I went to my aunt's because I had been staying with my sister, and I was just like, let me put some space between us. So I went to my aunt's house and stayed with her for a week. And then I came back just for the last couple of days before we flew back to Costa Rica. And we were not vibing, right? As sisters do sometimes. And when the Uber came and we were leaving, she was helping me carry suitcases and stuff to the car. And she goes, are you going to leave without giving me a hug? And I'm like, of course I'm not going to leave without giving you a hug. I was not that mad at her. I wasn't even mad at her. It was just a disagreement. But I gave her the hug, and it was a good one. And I told her that I loved her. And then, of course, we talked every day after that, after I left. But when she died, I always think about that last moment and how, if I had been so caught up in pride, ego, all of the things that I don't think I would have said no. But just imagine how many people would have been like, nah, I ain't hugging you. You want some other shit right now. Like, I'm not with it. And that would have destroyed them if they'd have been in my position where I never got to see her in person again. Right. And so that experience, plus me knowing and believing about this between space between living and leaving, I tend to pause more now. Right. So I tend to pause and ask the question. If it's something that I'm going to say, if it's something that's been asked of me, whatever it is, if I don't do this, or if I do this, if I say this, or if I don't say this, and they die tomorrow, will I regret it? Will I hate myself? And that's literally how I make a lot of decisions now. Sometimes the no can't be avoided. Sometimes the no is just the no for whatever reason, but sometimes the no is selfish. Sometimes the no is, I don't really want to. But I really implore people to just pause. Pause before you go scorched to earth. Pause before you say, no, I'll catch you at dinner next week. Especially if it's been repetitive, right? If you've been like canceling multiple times in a row, you would not believe how many times I've heard that. Well, I should have just saw them this last time. So where are you guys? We can open it up for questions about this space, questions about you, your own people, whatever's up, just tell me. I did get a question in my DM. Can I be in the between and not know it? And yes, you can be. You can be in the in-between and not know it. I've heard very close friends of mine talk about what they're going through and realizing that they're in the in-between now because they're shifting, they're transitioning from one thing to another. But yeah, people often don't realize it until later. The less interest in things that used to pull you, more reflection, and less patience for performance. Nick, you say you're in the in-between. Tell me why. Please tell me more. Why are you in the in-between? And the in-between can be confused with depression. And so depression is a fog with no target, right? But the between, it has texture, and it's often accompanied by peace, clarity, and more willingness to say the true thing. And while I am talking about death, This can be true for all transitions, right? When you have outgrown a role or an idea or a philosophy, you have a lot less patience in that area as you're trying to transition to whatever is next for you. So Nick says life is transitioning right now. It is. And it's transitioning personally for a lot of people, but I also feel like we're transitioning as a community, right? The collective is transitioning. There's so much happening on a global stage right now that if we're not all careful, we could all really be in the in between right now with the magnitude of the things that are happening and the way things are changing. But this is also because of those things, it's so important for us to be present and tap in and check in with our loved ones. Um, someone says, "What if I'm not ready to be in the in between? Like I'm 60 and I still want to build things. Then build. No one chooses when they enter the space, and no one has to enter it before it calls to them. So if you're in a building phase, build. You will know when you're in an in between. You're in an in between space." So yeah, I just really want to talk about this philosophy of between living and leaving, and if we embrace it on these small, tiny transitions, and the tiny deaths is actually what I like to call them, the little deaths that we experience daily, monthly, weekly, just all over in our lives. When we get to that big in between, it will be so much more easy for us to find peace, right? It's typically the people around the dying person that is the most dysregulated and not experiencing peace about this transition. Um, but I feel the more practiced we get at it, we can really change the entire landscape of what it looks like to leave, to die. And for both the dying and those that are living in the wake of death. Um, I think it'll always be sad, but not in a devastating way. I think sometimes it will be devastating. Like I said, I mentioned before, this doesn't apply to all deaths, right? But I think that if the dying person has accepted their fate and what is happening to them, we do them a disservice and a disjustice or an injustice when we hold on to something other than what they have accepted and other than what has brought them peace. Not saying you still can't be upset about it, but one, honor your loved one. Don't make it harder for them to leave. You guys, because people hold on because of their love for someone who is not handling it well. And that makes for a very difficult death. And so sometimes the best thing we can do is work on acceptance for ourselves. Okay. So I will leave you guys with that. And not sure what we're going to talk about tomorrow, but it'll be the same time tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Costa Rica time. I'm not sure, and that's like 6:30 Eastern. But have a beautiful rest of your Monday, and I will see you guys on the other side. Until the end, ciao.